Okay, so this is for normal mode Brakenspore, one of the bosses in the Highmaul raid. So for this, you want two tanks, you want healers, and you want DPS. This fight is more DPS important than healing important. So if you had to go with one or the other, go with a DPS because there's gonna be two mushrooms that spawn. One is the living mushroom, and then the other is a rejuvenating mushroom. So you want to basically stack up for the entire raid as much as you can, and you want to stack up on the mushrooms. So what you need to do is, for the living mushrooms, they do an AoE heal for 25k per second. So you need to have the healers heal the mushrooms to full, and then they start doing their AoE ability. And then the mushroom starts losing HP slowly, and then it gets faster and faster. So I think the maximum you can keep a mushroom up is probably about maybe 20 to 30 seconds or something. But that should be more than enough time for another mushroom to spawn. So you just basically go around the room here, mushroom to mushroom, because you need the abilities from the mushrooms to stay alive and to make sure that your healers are topped off with mana. So this is the second type of mushroom. It's a rejuvenating mushroom. So when you heal it to full, it gives a raid-wide bloodlust effect, and it also gives massively increased mana regeneration. So when the rejuvenation mushroom is up and healing the group, giving the group the abilities, the healers don't really need to care about mana. So for this fight, I DPS'd instead of my normal healing. So for DPSing melee, all you need to do is you just focus on the boss, and then when the big ad comes out, you focus on the big ad, and then all the little ads and all the spores that shoot out, the ranged should deal with that and kill off them as fast as possible. Ads are way more priority than the boss. So basically, just go mushroom to mushroom. He's gonna do this one channeled ability. I forget what it's called. It's like parasitic something. Basically, it's a channeled ability, and it's gonna do raid-wide AoE damage. So if you can, stack up and use the mushroom, the living mushroom, at that time to make sure that you're all topped off. So like I said, you can keep the mushrooms up for about 20 to 30 seconds. So it was actually called it's called infesting spores. So this is the AoE damage that you're gonna take. So as long as all the group is in the mushroom and the healers are healing the mushroom, then you're basically not gonna take any damage. You should be able to keep everyone at full. So there's also these little dangerous mushrooms that spawn. You need to kill off those as fast as possible. One of them does an AoE damage. I'm not sure what the other one does, but basically you need to kill them off as fast as possible. He's also gonna do a rot ability, the main boss, where he basically spits puke in front of the raid, and it's gonna do an AoE damage, so you definitely don't want to take that. For the big ad, the fungal flesh eater, he has an ability that needs to be interrupted every single time. It's called decay. What it's going to do is it's going to do massive damage to the raid. So unless you're at a living mushroom and it's healing you, you probably won't be able to survive a decay if it goes off. So basically, one other thing is that the green moss that you see around the floor, there's going to be two flamethrowers that spawn at the beginning of the fight. Two people can grab those, and then they need to go around the room, and they need to use the flamethrower to kill off the green stuff, because the enemies will heal for 2% a second on the green stuff, and it's also going to slow you and damage you massively. So you need to stay away from the green stuff, and you need to make sure it's not in your raid area. At first we had lots of problems with dealing with the green stuff. It started coming everywhere. So the trick I hear for the flamethrowers is that it overheats if you use it too much. So I think you need to kind of use the flamethrower ability, and then just clear off a little bit, make sure that it's not on overheat where it's on cooldown, and make sure that it's not at maximum, So just use a little now, use a little now, and then just make sure that you always have the fire or flamethrower ability ready to use when it's up. So you want to make sure that you can clear green stuff on demand, that you're not waiting on a cooldown or something. So that's pretty much it for the overview of the fight. You just have to make sure that your execution is pretty good. It's probably going to take a couple attempts to get all the mechanics down. So have the other tank the big ad and all the other ads that spawn, or actually the big ad is the only one that needs to be tanked. All the other ads, like the spore shooters and the bad mushrooms, those can just be DPS down by range. But everyone needs to get on the big fungal flesh eater and make sure that they interrupt the decay cast. And then for the boss, just make sure you're not standing in front of him when he does the rot ability. In general, it's never a good idea to stand in front of a boss, so that's basic raid 101 or whatever. So just make sure you do the tank swap when he does the healing debuff. And then for the channeled spore infestation ability, make sure you have a mushroom, or if you don't have a mushroom, use a cooldown. You should be getting every single mushroom. You should not be ignoring any of the mushrooms. He also has a 10-minute enrage timer, which is going to be kind of tight with the DPS that we had. I think we did this attempt in like 8 minutes or something. But you basically need everyone doing good DPS. If anyone's low, the enrage timer is really easy to hit. And if you hit it, you're basically just going to wipe. So basically just stack up as much as you can and then use every single mushroom that you can. You don't really need to worry about managing the mushrooms right now because they spawn so much that you're probably always going to have one. But for, I guess, heroic and mythic, managing the mushrooms, like using them at ideal times, using them to counter a certain boss ability is definitely going to be key. But right now, for normal, you don't really need to worry about that. You can probably just use, like, we had basically mushrooms all the time. So just go running from one to the other. The tank just needs to make sure that he doesn't puke over the raid. You know, keep the boss pointed away. And then for the spore shooter guys, they shoot out these spores, and apparently you can actually intercept them and kill them mid-flight. They're like a projectile mob that you can target or something. So any ranged bursting DPS, I guess hunters, should be able to take care of those. But if you get hit, it's going to do AoE raid damage, but if you're under a mushroom, a healing mushroom, it's not really a big deal. The tank's going to take a lot of damage, so one thing is you probably want to have 1 or 2 people dedicated to tank healing, even if there's a mushroom up. Because I actually healed this a couple attempts, and I discovered that even with the 25 heals or 25k heals per second from the mushrooms, the tank can still die. So we actually needed a guy full time on the tank in order to keep them up. So don't just rely on the healing mushroom. Healing mushroom is fine for the raid, but probably not for the tank. So you definitely want to keep people up on, or keep the dedicated healers up on the tank. I would say that this fight is gonna be more DPS intensive than say the butcher maybe. For this fight, basically with this pickup group I had, he started kicking basically everyone that was under 14k damage, because originally we had people doing like 10, 12. So 10 and 12 DPS are probably okay for the butcher and Kargath. But I would say for Tectus and Brakenspore, you need to up it to like 14, 15k DPS. Right now I'm at about 20k DPS, and I'm in my off spec. I don't even have, my gear is not too optimized. I don't even know what glyphs and stuff I'm using. But I guess my rotation is probably good, because this CLC RET add-on, basically you can just set priorities and it's easy mode for paladins. So that's pretty much it.